Imagine there was a switch in your brain that, once flipped, locked you into pure, unbreakable focus. No more mindless scrolling. No more starting and stopping. No more watching your goals drift further away while your attention gets hijacked by everything and nothing at the same time. Just you, fully present, so absorbed in what you're doing that the world seems to disappear and time bends around your concentration. That state isn't fantasy. It's not reserved for geniuses or gifted people. It's a skill, and few humans in history embodied that skill more completely than Miyamoto Musashi, the samurai who turned focus into a weapon sharper than steel, and then into a philosophy for life itself. Before we dive deeper, if you're the kind of person who's tired of shallow advice and actually wants to understand how to build this kind of focus in real life, you may want to subscribe. Around here, we don't just talk about motivation. We study the minds of people like Musashi and translate their wisdom into something you can use every single day. Now, let's step onto his path. Musashi did not grow up in a quiet world. He was born into an age of chaos, in a Japan split by civil war and shifting loyalties. Survival wasn't guaranteed. Reputation meant everything. A single mistake could end your life. And yet, in the middle of that turmoil, a boy began to sharpen not only his sword, but his mind. At 13, while most of us are trying to figure out who we are, Musashi was already stepping into duels that could have been his last. The stories say he defeated a seasoned samurai at that age, but the real lesson isn't that he was talented. The real lesson is that from the beginning, he understood if his focus fractured, even for a moment, he was gone. Fighting with a sword on a dusty road or on a lonely island is one thing, but the private battle going on inside him was even more intense. Every fear, every doubt, every distracting thought he allowed in could cost him his life. So he began crafting something most people never even think about: a disciplined inner world. To Musashi, focus was not simply pay attention harder. It was a way of being, a way of standing inside his own mind with both feet firmly planted, a way of refusing to let his attention be dragged around by fear, adrenaline, or ego. Now contrast that with the world we live in today. Most of us are not facing duels at sunrise, but we are fighting something else: constant distraction, notifications begging for attention, videos auto-playing, messages pinging, targets at work, expectations from family, an endless feed of other people's lives. The danger is different, but the effect is similar. Our focus gets sliced into tiny pieces. We move from one thing to another, rarely staying long enough with anything to go deep. Our minds become like a room with doors and windows wide open. Whatever noise passes by simply walks in and stays. Musashi's life offers a completely different model. Imagine a man walking into a duel or a remote island, knowing his opponent has trained for years, knowing people are watching, knowing his own death is a real possibility, and yet his mind is still as still water, not empty in the sense of numb, but completely free of the extra. No unnecessary tension, no replaying of past mistakes, no rehearsing of future outcomes, just a razor-sharp presence in the exact moment he is in. That is the kind of focus we're talking about. And the surprising thing is, you don't need a sword to build it. You need intention, discipline, and a willingness to treat your mind as something you train, not something you just endure. Musashi believed focus begins long before the crucial moment. The duel is only the visible tip of the iceberg. The real work happens in how you move through your ordinary days. He didn't just focus when he fought. He practiced focus in how he walked, how he observed, how he listened, how he trained. He saw every action as a chance to align mind, body, and spirit in one direction. That's the first shift we need to make. Stop treating focus like something that magically appears when we need it, and start treating it like a muscle that's being trained all the time. Think about your own day. How often do you allow your attention to be pulled away the second something feels boring, uncomfortable, or challenging? How often do you open a tab just to check something, and then wake up 20 minutes later wondering what you were doing? These aren't just minor habits. They are your mind learning, over and over again, to leave the moment instead of staying in it. Musashi went the other way. He taught his mind to stay. One of the ways he did this was by embracing what we might call full presence. When he was training, he was training. When he was carving a wooden sword, he was carving. When he was walking, he was walking. He didn't allow his mind to scatter into a dozen half-thoughts. He didn't let his body be in one place while his mind wandered miles away. He understood that the quality of his attention in small moments would decide the quality of his attention in the big ones. If you can't stay fully engaged while doing a simple drill, how will you stay fully engaged when someone's blade is coming towards you? You don't need a dojo or a battlefield to apply this. Try something simple. The next time you make a cup of coffee or tea, do it like Musashi would. Put your phone away. Feel the weight of the cup. Hear the sound of the water. Notice the heat, the scent, the movement of your own hands. Your mind will try to escape. It will wander toward your to-do list, toward a song stuck in your head, toward something someone said earlier. Gently, but firmly, bring it back. This seems trivial. It's not. You are teaching your mind that when you choose a point of focus, you stay with it. Musashi also understood that focus is not tightness. If you try to concentrate by forcing your mind, by tensing every mental muscle, you actually become clumsy. You overreact. You make mistakes. That's why he spoke of mind like water. Imagine a pool of still water. If you throw a stone into it, it reacts perfectly. No more, no less than necessary. The ripples spread out. Then the surface becomes calm again. That is how Musashi wanted his mind to be, responding fully to what happens, then returning to calm, not frozen, not overexcited, just precise. Our version of mind like water might look like this. An email arrives with bad news, and instead of spiraling into panic, you feel the impact, but your mind stays clear enough to ask, what is the next best action? Someone criticizes you, and instead of exploding in anger or collapsing into shame, you feel the sting, but your mind doesn't drown in it. A difficult challenge lands in your lap, and instead of instantly trying to escape, your attention leans toward it with curiosity. How can I break this down? What can I learn here? This is not about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming emotionally steady. Musashi trained this steadiness by placing himself in situations where it was tested, not recklessly, but deliberately. He didn't run from difficulty. He walked into it with his whole awareness. You and I don't need to seek out sword fights, but we can mimic the pattern in our own lives. Every time you feel like quitting a task halfway, but you choose to stay for 5 more focus minutes, you are forging that same quality. Every time you feel overwhelmed, but instead of numbing out, you take a breath and stay with the discomfort long enough to choose a wise action. You are practicing mind like water. Another key to Musashi's focus was clarity of intention. He didn't train just because. He didn't wander through life waiting to see what would happen. He moved with purpose. That didn't mean he always knew exactly how things would turn out, but he knew why he was doing what he was doing. Focus thrives in the presence of clear intention. When you know what matters, it becomes easier to say no to what does and single quotes do. Many people today struggle with focus, not because their brain is broken, but because their priorities are blurry. They are trying to give equal attention to everything, which is another way of giving real attention to nothing. Musashi would likely tell you, choose. Choose what matters most right now. Is it mastering a skill? Is it rebuilding your health? Is it finishing a project? Is it healing a relationship? Once you choose, let that intention guide how you spend your time and where you place your attention. Every yes to a distraction is a no to that intention, but intention without structure can still drift. That's why Musashi lived with discipline. He didn't rely on motivation. Motivation rises and falls like waves. He built routines that supported his focus, training at certain times, reflecting at certain times, resting at certain times. The rhythm of his life was not random. It was designed. He understood something simple yet profound. Your environment and your habits either guard your focus or attack it. Look around your own life. Is your environment on your side? Or is it constantly tempting you away from deep work? If your phone is always within reach, lit up with notifications, it's not a neutral object, it's a thief of attention. If your desk is buried in clutter, your mind has to fight through that visual noise every time you sit down. If you always keep a second screen open just in case, you're cutting your focus before it even forms. Musashi would have stripped away anything that didn't serve the moment he was in. You can do the same. One task, one space, one intention at a time. There is one more thing Musashi understood about focus that we often overlook. It is not only about what you do, but about what you don't do. Saying yes to full focus requires saying no to constant stimulation. It means being willing to feel a little bored, rather than instantly medicating boredom with a screen. It means being willing to not know the latest update on everything in exchange for knowing yourself and your craft deeply. It means being willing to feel the discomfort of staying with one thing instead of tasting a little bit of everything all the time. This can feel like a sacrifice at first, but what you gain in return is something infinite. The experience of being fully alive in a single moment, doing one thing with your whole self. That's the state Musashi built his life around. And it's a state you can learn to enter more and more often. Not all at once, not perfectly, but gradually, deliberately. Like a warrior sharpening his blade a little each day. The path to full focus does not begin with a magic hack. It begins with a decision to treat your attention as something sacred instead of something expendable. Musashi made that decision long ago on dusty roads and quiet mountainsides. You can make it now, wherever you are, simply by noticing where your mind is, choosing where you want it to be, and gently bringing it back, again and again. That is where the journey really starts. Asterisk, asterisk. There is a moment every person encounters, sooner or later, when the demands of life collide with the limits of their attention. You sit down to work, determined to make progress, only to find yourself drifting within minutes. You open a book, read a few lines, and suddenly your mind has wandered far away. You try to finish a project, but your focus slips through your fingers like water. And in those moments, you might tell yourself, I just need more discipline. But discipline alone cannot solve a fractured mind. Musashi understood this, which is why his philosophy of focus goes far deeper than sheer willpower. Dr. Musashi. Focus wasn't something you forced onto the mind. It was something you shaped the mind to be ready for. It was a garden cultivated over time, not a fire you lit on command. And just as a garden needs the right conditions to flourish, so does your attention. This is where Musashi's deeper insights begin to reveal themselves, insights about the relationship between inner silence, outer simplicity, and the strength to commit yourself fully to the moment you're in. One of the most misunderstood aspects of focus is the belief that it always feels intense, dramatic, or forceful. Most people imagine full focus as a kind of mental sprint, a fierce narrowing of attention accompanied by pressure and urgency. But Musashi's focus was not frantic. It was spacious. His mind was not compressed. It was open. His attention was not hard, but flexible. He trained himself to enter a state where mental noise dissolved, leaving only clarity. And clarity, once found, is naturally powerful. He spent long periods in solitude, not out of loneliness, but out of purpose. Solitude allowed him to see his own mind without interruption. In that silence, he learned how thoughts rise like ripples and fade naturally when not resisted. He learned that emotions, when observed instead of suppressed, lose their ability to control you. And he discovered a truth that modern people rarely encounter. Most distractions do not need to be defeated. They need to be understood. When you understand your distractions, their power fades. Asterisk, asterisk. Imagine sitting in a quiet room with no technology, no noise, no tasks pulling at you. At first, your mind would race. It would latch onto whatever thoughts it could find. But if you stayed long enough, minutes, hours, days, you would start to see the patterns. You would notice the thoughts that return over and over, the anxieties that sit beneath the surface, the desires that pull you in different directions. You would realize that distraction is not external. It is internal. It begins with the mind's inability to sit with itself. Musashi confronted this inability head-on. Instead of reaching for stimulation, he leaned into stillness. Instead of running from discomfort, he examined it. And in doing so, he found the root of focus, a mind that can sit in silence without collapsing into confusion. This is why modern productivity strategies often fail. They attempt to manipulate the environment, turning off notifications, blocking websites, using timers, without ever addressing the deeper cause of distraction, inner restlessness. You cannot fully focus if your mind is constantly trying to escape itself. Musashi solved distractions by solving the mind that produced them. He also understood the importance of intention. Before any duel, he centered himself not by imagining victory, but by dissolving thoughts of loss, victory, fear, or pride. He released outcomes. He entered the present moment as if stepping into a clear pool, letting the coldness wake his senses and the stillness sharpen his instincts. With intention anchored and mind calm, he moved into action. You can apply this exact method today, whether you're preparing for a difficult conversation, a demanding project, or a personal transformation. Before you begin, pause, take a breath, release the outcome, let go of your internal chatter. The mind cannot focus if it is clinging to results or drowning in expectations. A clear mind cannot coexist with obsession over how things will turn out. Musashi's focus came from trust in his training, trust in his presence, trust in his ability to meet the moment exactly as it was. This brings us to another important part of his philosophy, the two swords. To Musashi, focus required both an outward blade and an inward blade. The outward blade is your action, the work you do, the skills you sharpen, the goals you chase. The inward blade is your awareness, the ability to understand your motivations, your fears, your habits, and your emotional states. When these two swords are wielded together, focus becomes natural. But when one is neglected, focus collapses. Modern society overtrains the outward sword. People push themselves to work harder, hustle more, produce more, but rarely reflect on why they're doing it or whether their actions align with their deeper values. This creates a kind of mental imbalance. You may be able to force yourself to work for a while, but without the inner sword of awareness, you will burn out, distract yourself, or lose purpose. Musashi spent as much time observing himself as he did training his swordsmanship. He studied his own reactions, fears, and impulses. He examined what pulled his attention away and why. He practiced watching his thoughts without merging with them. Through this, he forged the inner sword sharper than any steel weapon, a blade capable of cutting through doubt, confusion, and emotional turbulence. This is the foundation of full focus, an internal world that supports your external actions. Without this harmony, no technique, hack, or tool will save you. Your mind will remain scattered because you have not yet understood the forces scattering it. Focus also requires rhythm, something Musashi wrote about in the Book of Five Rings. He believed every activity has a rhythm, and mastery comes from sensing that rhythm and moving with it instead of against it. When you fall into rhythm with your work, your mind stops fighting you. The task becomes fluid. Time loses its weight. You become absorbed, not by force, but by alignment. Think of an athlete in flow state, or a musician lost in their instrument, or a writer whose fingers move faster than their thoughts. That is rhythm, and rhythm is not created by effort. It is created by attention meeting intention at the right moment. Musashi trained himself to find rhythm in combat, the rhythm of his opponent's breathing, the subtle timing between strikes, the quiet shift in momentum that signals the perfect instant to move. You can find rhythm in your own tasks too. Every project, every challenge, every pursuit has a natural tempo. When you stop trying to rush ahead or drag behind and instead listen for the rhythm, you fall into a deeper form of focus. That's when work becomes almost effortless. But to reach this level, you must confront one of the biggest enemies of focus: fear. Fear of failure, fear of not being good enough, fear of being judged, fear of discomfort. Fear is a master of the subtle sabotage. It whispers at the edges of your mind, pulls your attention toward what might go wrong, and distracts you from what you're actually doing. Fear fractures focus. Musashi was not fearless. He simply refused to let fear occupy the center of his mind. He allowed fear to exist at the edges, while he placed his awareness firmly in the present moment. He recognized fear as information, not instruction. And that small shift gave him enormous mental freedom. Imagine doing the same. Imagine moving toward goals, not with the weight of fear on your shoulders, but with clarity radiant enough to cut through it. Imagine working on a dream, not while thinking about all the ways you might fail, but by staying rooted in the simple action in front of you. That is focus. And then there is energy, a piece of Musashi's philosophy often overlooked. He believed that a focused mind naturally directs energy efficiently, while a distracted mind leaks energy constantly. Think about how drained you feel after switching between apps, tasks, messages, and thoughts all day. That exhaustion doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from doing too little, with too many interruptions. Your mind burns energy every time it transitions, resets, reorients, or reloads information. Musashi avoided this by living simply, practicing consistently, and eliminating unnecessary complexity. He kept his inner world uncluttered, and his outer world supported that clarity. The result was a mind that could sustain long periods of deep focus without collapse. What would your life look like if your energy flowed into one direction instead of 20? How much could you accomplish if your mind stopped leaking through countless micro-distractions? The answer is more than you realize. Focus is not about squeezing harder. It is about sealing the leaks. Musashi's focus was a harmony of intention, awareness, steadiness, simplicity, and disciplined rhythm. And while you may not face duels, you face modern battles Musashi never imagined. Battles for your attention, for your purpose, for your time, for your inner peace. But the weapon he forged is the same weapon you carry now. Your mind. And learning to wield it is the beginning of your transformation. Asterisk. If Miyamoto Musashi were somehow dropped into our world today, into your city, your room, your schedule, he would probably be shocked by the noise, the screens, the speed. But once that initial surprise faded, he would recognize something very familiar: people losing battles, not because they are weak, but because their minds are pulled in 1,000 directions. And just like he did centuries ago, he wouldn't waste time complaining. He would start training. He would not begin with grand speeches. He would begin with a small, simple question. Where is your mind right now? Not where your body is, not what you're pretending to do, but what your attention is actually holding. Because from his perspective, that answer is the map of your life. Your focus reveals your future long before your results do. If you told Musashi you want to enter full focus in your work, your art, or your personal journey, he would not hand you a motivational quote. He would give you practices, not to impress you, but to change you. Practices that gradually transform your mind from fragmented and reactive into calm, steady, and precise. And he would remind you, this is not a one-time fix. It is a path. The first practice he might give you would be deceptively simple. Create a daily moment of deliberate stillness. No screens, no music, no distractions. Just you sitting or standing quietly, breathing for 10 minutes. Your mind will try to escape. It will throw thoughts at you like stones. Stay anyway. You are not trying to stop your thoughts. You are learning to see them without becoming them. This is how you begin to discover the difference between you and the noise in your head. In that stillness, you're doing what Musashi did in caves, forests, and lonely roads. You're building a container strong enough to hold your own mind. It will be uncomfortable at first. That discomfort is not a sign you're failing, it's a sign you're finally noticing what has always been there. Next, he would ask you to choose one activity each day to turn into a focus ritual. It could be studying, training, designing, coding, writing, or any meaningful task. For this one activity, you set a clear intention. For the next 30 minutes, this is my entire world. You close all other tabs. You silence notifications. You clear your physical space, then you begin. Your mind will wander. When it does, don't attack yourself. Just gently guide your attention back to the task. The way a seasoned warrior adjusts his stance without drama. Every return is a repetition. Every repetition is training. You are teaching your mind that when you choose a point of focus, you return to it. No matter how many times you drift away, Musashi would also insist that your outer world should not fight your inner goals. If your room is chaotic, your desk buried, your digital workspace cluttered, you are unconsciously giving your focus away. He would probably walk around your environment silently, then say something very simple. Remove what is not needed, not to be aesthetic, but to be effective. When the eye sees less noise, the mind has less to process. When the mind has less to process, it can go deeper into what matters. He would encourage you to create what we might call strategic retreats, not hiding from life, but stepping back from it in a controlled way to restore clarity. A retreat could be a quiet, early morning hour when everyone else is asleep. It could be a weekend walk without your phone. It could be a week where, after work, you read instead of scroll. The point is not escape. The point is recalibration. Just like Musashi withdrew from the world at times to refine his understanding, you withdraw, briefly, to remember who is holding the sword. Then he would bring your attention to the idea of the two swords again, action and reflection. He might ask, do you only do? Or do you also see? If you work all day but never reflect, your actions become mechanical. If you reflect all day but never act, your insights remain fantasies. Full focus comes from the dance between the two. You act with full presence. Then you step back and examine what you've done. You can turn this into a daily habit. At the end of the day, instead of collapsing straight into distraction, spend 5 minutes asking yourself, what did I focus on today? Was it aligned with what truly matters? Where did I lose myself? Where did I stay present? Write a few lines. No need for poetry, just honesty. Over time, patterns will emerge. You will see where your focus slips most easily, and those are the weak points you can begin to strengthen. Musashi would also ask you to examine your relationship with discomfort. Every time something feels difficult, your mind offers escape routes. Check your phone, open another tab, go find a snack, switch to something easier. He would see this and say, that is the moment your training truly starts. Staying with a task for just a few minutes longer when you want to run builds a powerful message into your nervous system. We do not flee from every discomfort. This is how mental endurance is born. Doctor, train this. You can create what we might call Musashi minutes. When you feel the urge to quit or switch, tell yourself, just 3 more minutes of full focus. Set a timer if you like. Do not expect perfection. Some days you will fail, but if you persist, you will find that those 3 minutes stretch. You realize you are capable of more depth than your mind initially offered you. You are expanding your capacity. He would also remind you that your mind cannot sustain deep focus if your body is constantly exhausted, undernourished, or overstimulated. Mind, body, and spirit are not separate lanes. They are a single road. Sleep, movement, and simple food may not sound like spiritual strategy, but Musashi knew that a tired warrior cannot maintain a clear mind, no matter how wise he is. So he might say, if you wish for a steady mind, give it a steady vessel. That could mean respecting your sleep more than your late night scrolling. It could mean walking in silence instead of always listening to something. It could mean using physical exercise as a way to practice presence instead of just chasing numbers. When your body is grounded, it becomes easier for your mind to settle into focus. Another practice Musashi might introduce is the training of selective attention. He would never try to focus on everything at once. He would choose what matters in each moment and give it his whole presence. You can test this in conversations. The next time someone speaks to you, let yourself listen as if nothing else exists for that moment. No rehearsing your reply. No half listening while thinking of something else. Just listening. You may be surprised by how powerful this feels for you and for them. Focus is not only a tool for work, it is a gift you can give to others. As your training deepens, Musashi would likely warn you about a subtle danger, using the idea of focus as another thing to judge yourself for. He would not want you to turn this path into a perfectionist trap. You will get distracted. You will have days where your mind feels wild. There will be times you sit to work and nothing flows. He would tell you, that is part of the journey. A warrior is not defined by never stumbling, but by how they return to the path each time. So instead of asking, why can't I stay focused perfectly? Ask, am I returning faster than before? Am I drifting less far than before? These small improvements are signs that your mind is changing. They're easy to overlook because they don't feel dramatic. But Musashi built his mastery out of thousands of small, invisible refinements, to dot, and at some point, if you stay with this path long enough, something quiet but incredible will begin to happen. Tasks that used to feel impossible to focus on will become easier. Projects that once overwhelmed you will become manageable, then energizing. You'll find yourself able to stay with things longer, go deeper into them, and extract more meaning from them. Full focus will not be a rare accident. It will be a familiar state you can enter more often, almost like walking into a room you've carefully prepared. When that happens, you will notice that your relationship with time changes. Instead of constantly feeling rushed, behind, or scattered, you will experience stretches of time that feel rich and alive. A single hour of deep, Musashi-style focus can accomplish more than an entire day of scattered effort. You start to understand why he treated focus as sacred. It multiplies everything it touches. And here is the most important part. This path is not reserved for warriors in armor or monks in mountains. It is open to you, right where you are, with the life you have now, the tools you have now, the mind you have now. You don't need to vanish from society or become someone else. You simply need to show up to your own mind, consistently, with courage and patience. If you've felt something inside you respond to this, some part of you that's tired of drifting, tired of being pulled around, tired of living half present, then you're already on the edge of transformation. This is the part where many people walk away and return to the noise. But it can also be the part where you quietly decide, no, I'm going to live differently. And if this kind of journey speaks to you, it is studying Musashi, the samurai way, and the deeper mechanics of the mind helps you feel less lost and more powerful. You may want to subscribe so you don't lose track of it, not just to support this channel, but as a small commitment to yourself, a reminder that your focus, your inner world, and your growth matter. In the end, Musashi's legacy is not just about undefeated duels. It is about what he proved possible for the human mind, that a person can train themselves to stay calm in chaos, that they can cultivate attention so deep it cuts through confusion, that they can live in a way where their actions, thoughts, and values stand in alignment like 3 points on a single, uncheckable line. You may never hold a sword, you may never step into a battlefield, but you will wake up tomorrow with a mind, and that mind will either be dragged by the world or guided by you. Full focus is not magic, it is not destiny, it is the daily decision to take your mind back, one thought, one moment, one breath at a time. Musashi walked that path with bare feet and a wooden blade. You will walk it with different tools, in a different era, but the road is the same. And as you place your next step, and the next, and the next, you might just discover that the most powerful thing you will ever learn to command is not your schedule, not your surroundings, not other people. It is your own attention.